Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to my next video where I'm covering the Mega Pokemon released in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about Mega Altaria, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, when Altaria Mega evolves through the use of the Altaria Knight item, it decides to keep its Dragon typing, but actually changes its Flying typing to a Fairy typing. Now initially this is kind of a downer because you do lose your immunity to ground type moves. However, with the addition of the Fairy typing, you get some amazing defense resistances in terms of what this Pokemon is able to switch in on or take hits from. So if you're curious as to what this Pokemon is actually able to resist, it resists fighting, bug, fire, water, grass, electric, and dark, which are some of the most common attacking types you're going to run into in the game, while also getting an immunity now to dragon type moves, which is just amazing overall because this Pokemon is able to switch in on so many different attackers and almost be safe in a lot of situations because of its amazing ability to resist so many of the most common types you're going to see. Now, the additional thing that it does gain as a result of getting its Fairy typing is that it is now weak to poison and steel types, but it also loses its Stealth Rock weakness because it no longer has the Flying typing attached to it, as well as its rock weakness in general, and it also mitigates the Ice type weakness to only being a 2x weakness now instead of a 4x weakness, which it originally had with its Dragon Flying typing. But as for its ability, it decides to get the Pixelate ability upon Mega Evolving, which, for those of you that do not know, is an ability that changes normal type attacks into Fairy type moves and also increases their power in the process. So for example, the returns, frustrations, or hyper voices coming off of Mega Altaria will now, instead of being normal type moves, be Fairy type moves and also do increased damage. And this is actually taking into account not stab. Like, I think the power is boosted by 1.3, and then also they are stab moves as well, increasing their power further. Basically meaning that normal type attacks, quote unquote normal type attacks with the Pixelate ability, are your strongest moves to go for more often than not. But for its stats, if you're curious as to how this Pokemon's stats change when it does Mega Evolve, the two biggest increases that this Pokemon gets are to its physical attack and its special attack, which are both boosted by 40 points. So his physical attack goes up to 110, and special attack also goes up to 110. Its defense also gets the remainder of the 100 points that are given every time you Mega Evolve, so it gets the 20 points into its defense, bringing that up to 110, and which pretty much basically rounds this Pokemon's stats out incredibly well, allowing it to pretty much do a ton of different roles in battle. Now, a lot of people give this Pokemon some flack for not having like the base 150 attack that Mega Beedrill has or like other things like that. It's more of a balanced Mega in terms of its stats, but because of its great typing and because of its really good move pool, it can do so many different things so well that this Pokemon is extremely versatile, and also can keep you guessing or keep your opponent guessing because there are a bunch of different sets you can run on this Pokemon. Now, the base 80 speed isn't spectacular because it's basically like an average speed, but keep in mind this Pokemon also does get access to moves like Dragon Dance and things like that to boost its speed further if you were trying to maybe run a sweeping set with this Pokemon. But with that, let's take a look at the first set that I have for you in this video. So for this first set, we're going to start off by giving Mega Altaria a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, or a Naive Nature to increase its speed but lower its special defense. And for the ability, you can either go with Natural Cure or Cloud 9. Now, more often than not, Natural Cure and Cloud 9 are not really going to be used because you're just going to Mega Evolve and you're going to lose both the effects of those abilities anyway, but it's really up to you whichever one you want to choose. Personally, I would actually pick Cloud 9 because as soon as you Mega Evolve, you're not going to gain your status back with Natural Cure. However, you can use Cloud 9 as a way to switch in to certain types of attackers that want to benefit from weather, such as Charizard Y, and completely ruin their day while you try to set up with the set. But for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into its physical attack, 4 into its special defense, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max out both its physical attack and speed, and then we're going to be making use of the Altaria Knight item to allow this Pokemon to achieve its Mega Evolution. As for the moves though, the first one we're going to be running is Dragon Dance as a way for Mega Altaria to boost its physical attack and speed by one stage, thus turning it into a very powerful and speedy physical attacker. And along with that boosting move, we're going to be making use of Return as our strongest quote-unquote Fairy type move because of Pixelate, and Earthquake for some coverage. And these two moves in combination with each other pretty much give you the majority of coverage you are going to need if you're using this set in OU because of the type coverage that you get with it in general. Now things like Skarmory and Ferrothorn and others might be able to resist this type combination pretty well, so that is something to keep in mind, but that is also why I give in the last move slot the option of running Fire Blast, which even though this is a mainly physical set, will still do quite a bit of damage to both of those Pokemon that I just named, as well as maybe some things like Scizor if you predict a switch or something like that. Fire Blast can definitely have its uses. But if you want to have more opportunities to set up and sweep, Roost is a great option to run in the last move slot to allow you to recover your health by 50% every single time you go for it. So overall, this is just a pretty powerful boosting set for this Pokemon to run, and Roost, if you do choose to run it at the end, helps sustain this Pokemon a lot longer through battle and give it plenty of opportunities to sweep the opponent's team if it gets the chance to. Up next, we have my personal favorite defensive set to run on this Pokemon. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Bold Nature to increase its physical defense and lower its physical attack. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Cloud9, specifically for the sake of switching in on Charizard Y, as well as maybe some other things, but more specifically Charizard Y, and I will explain a bit of that in a moment. But for the EVs, we're going to put 224 into its HP, 236 into its defense, and 48 EVs into its special defense to give this Pokemon some pretty great mixed bulk all around. Now, it might seem weird that I'm taking a few EVs off of defense and HP and putting them into special defense, but the reason for that is just specifically to live special attacks a little bit more, but this is more designed to be a physically defensive set. And again, for the item, we're going to be using Altaria Knight. For the moves though, this time we're going to be running some special attacks, so we're going to be running Hyper Voice and Fire Blast as our two main attacks on this set. Hyper Voice obviously being able to be a fairy type because of the Pixelate ability, and Fire Blast for the extra coverage. Now if you think about these two moves in combination with each other, you are completely walled by Heatran, so the reason we're running in the third move slot, potentially Earthquake, is to deal with a Pokemon like Heatran. Also, additional option is Hidden Power Rock, and I'll explain that in a second, or Heal Bell, which will allow you to recover the statuses of you and your teammates on your team, while you also try to maintain your health through the use of Roost on the set. So the reason why I like this set so much is because of the fact that this set completely walls both Charizard X and Charizard Y, which is not possible by any other Pokemon, almost. Now, Charizard X sort of, in the sense that if it does have like 2 Dragon Dances, you're not going to wall it, but nothing will at that point anyway. But if you can switch in on a +1 Adamant Flare Blitz, you can actually live that and then take it out with a Hyper Voice on the following turn. Potentially. Now, if it's Jolly, you will definitely live it, but if it's Adamant and you have maybe taken a little bit of damage, it's possible to not live it if they do have max, or if they have Stealth Rock on the field and you took a little bit of damage, and they just kind of go for it. But either way, this set does a very good job of taking care of Charizard X by switching in on it, and additionally, with the Cloud9 ability, you can switch in on Charizard Y no matter what. If it tries to go for Solar Beam, it will fail because of Cloud9, and Fire Blast or Flamethrower does absolutely nothing to you, maybe like 30% or so, to where you can easily just roost it off without the effects of Sun Up, because one of the main reasons why Charizard Y is so effective is because the Sun boosts its power further. But overall, this set can do a lot to deal with both of those versions of Charizard, and also at the same time wall the crap out of Latios and Latias, and also Landorus and a ton of other Pokemon in the OU tier. It's amazing for what this Pokemon could do. Now, granted, it is completely checked by stuff like Greninja and what was the other one? Escadrille, that's the other one. But for the most part, this set can wall a ton of things, and with the proper support, this can be a very, very, very effective Pokemon to use in terms of being able to deal with a lot of the powerful sweepers that you see in the OU tier. And by the way, last thing about Hidden Power Rock, that is there because even though you do wall Charizard Y, you can't actually hurt it with Hyper Voice or Fire Blast. So HP Rock actually lets you 2-hit KO it. And as for this final set, this is pretty much a more offensive take on the previous one. So the only thing that's changing in the set is the nature and the moves. So for the nature, we're going to be going with Impish this time to increase its defense but lower its special attack. And for the moves, we are actually going to be turning this into a bulky Dragon Dancing set, which was come up with through the use of kind of modifying the one I just showed you by one of my friends. So the moves in the set are going to be Dragon Dance to allow us to obviously boost our physical attack and speed by 1 stage, and then we're going to be going with Return to be our main fairy type attack. And along with that, we're going to be running Heal Bell and Roost to allow us to sustain ourselves. So not only can the set wall a lot of attackers, now it is able to actually set up itself and be extremely threatening in the battle. So if it is able to do this, it is basically going to be almost impossible to deal with this Pokemon, because moves such as Bullet Punches from Mega Metagross and Scissor do not do enough to kill you when you're relatively near full health, even though they are like the super powerful priority steel type moves that you are used to hearing about. So that's really cool. And also the fact that you now can be completely immune to things like Will-O-Wisp or Toxic or things like that if people are trying to status you by preventing your setup, like Rotom-Wash coming in and wanting to burn you. You can just Heal Bell that, Roost off, and then continue to Dragon Dance over and over again, and eventually just return and kill everything on your opponent's team. And that's pretty much how this set works. So it's all the bulk of the previous one, but it's more setup based, so it's not as immediately usable, but it does also give you the option of potentially sweeping a team while also being able to wall attackers. So shoutouts to Brandflakes325 for that one. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed these 3 sets. As you can see, Mega Altaria has the potential to be an amazing setup sweeper, an amazing wall, and also do both at the same time, which is just fantastic for this Pokemon, and I hope you enjoy using it as much as I have in the past. But that is it, everybody. So everybody, as always, please take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.